Welcome back to Hardball. As the deal with Iran comes down to the wire, conservatives here in America and right-wingers generally have been going after the president. They're making clear that they want to stop it at all costs right now. And that assault on the diplomatic efforts has caused some tension between the White House, of course, and the Israeli leader, Bibi Netanyahu, something the right has certainly been willing to exploit for political advantage. Here was Speaker of the House John Boehner at his worst yesterday, putting the blame for the strained relationship squarely on the president.
I think the animosity exhibited by our administration toward the Prime Minister of Israel is reprehensible. And I think that the pressure that they've put on him over the last 4 or 5 years have frankly pushed him to the point where he had to speak up. I don't blame him at all for speaking up.
Victimhood, right. Anyway, those strong words fit a growing chorus from the right. President Obama has caused the breakdown. In fact, many go much further. Not only is he antagonistic toward Bibi Netanyahu and his policy, he's also antagonistic to the state of Israel itself, they argue. Here it goes.
This administration in general, and this president in particular, has an extraordinary disdain for Israel in general and Benjamin Netanyahu in particular.
Maybe he'll start being more helpful to Israel instead of slapping them around as an unwelcome visitor.
This administration has been the most antagonistic administration to Israel in the history of this country.
Here's what I don't understand. I don't understand how Jews in America can be Democrats first and Jewish second, and support Israel along the line of just following their president.
President Obama is holding secret talks with Iran, even as Iran threatens to wipe Israel off the map. The Israeli Prime Minister is coming to Washington, but Obama won't talk to him.
Barack Obama, as a result of this and the other things he's doing, is the greatest threat the Jews face, not in this country, but in Israel, since the 1930s.
Well, there we go. I'm joined right now by tonight's roundtable. David Corns, Washington Bureau Chief for Mother Jones, and an MSNBC political analyst. Casey Hunt's a political reporter for MSNBC, and very busy these days. And Lauren Burke is managing editor of Politics 365. You know, this trope, this meme, this argument that if you disagree with Bibi Netanyahu, and I say this as a person who's not Jewish, I've been there many, many times to Israel. The great thing about that country, you can debate policy. You can be Yossi Bellin, you can be Zippy Livni, and nobody accuses you of being anti-Semitic. You can go in there or anti-Israel. You're allowed to have different opinions. It's a talking country where everybody is prime minister and has an opinion. You have an opinion that disagrees with Bibi Netanyahu, who is on the far right of Israel politics, and you're considered an enemy of Israel by the right wing here. Well, I think they're just in league with them politically.
Well, as a guy who, as a kid, gave quarters to plant trees in Israel, all I can say about this is oi, because you're right. There is more debate in Israel about the Iranian deal, about peace with the Palestinians.
70% of the people didn't vote for Netanyahu. What are we getting our heads around here?
They're equating Barack Obama with being anti-Israel because he's anti-Bibi. You know, but this comes after calling him anti-American, comes after calling him anti-Christian.
Non-American.
I mean, they're finally getting to anti-Israel. It's kind of taken a while to do this.
Didn't you know?
But
he's under communist influence, according to Ted Cruz.
Well, communist, a socialist, a secret Muslim, and he also doesn't like Israel. And why would a Jewish American voter put up with this? I mean, this is really quite.
This sounds like Ed Koch. Remember that when he did it with Jesse Jackson? No Jew should ever vote for Jesse Jackson. Remember that stuff? You're getting lively here, Laura.
It's zero-sum Tea Party politics. You either agree all the way or you're against all the way. There is no 90%. You could 90% agree with Ben Netanyahu, but if you don't do that 10%, you're 100% against. And it's just it's the politics of our age.
There's 2 ways to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. You can bomb them. That'll keep them from getting one for 2 or 3 years. They'll be back at it again. The united front this time. With the secular people, the Rouhanis, they'll all be for it then, and we'll never stop them. Or you can try this 10-year thing. But there are all ways of putting it off.
But they have no plan. Tom Cotton has
Nobody's
no plan.
Nobody's going to permanently stop them from doing it. Yeah.
You know, it's...
Your thoughts? Containment or war with Iran is still the issue. I don't think war works, but...
I mean, look,
argument.
I think from playing off of what you were just saying, I think that this is broader than that and has become a real litmus test for the Republican Party in a way that it hasn't been even in previous years. I was talking to David off the set, and he mentioned the fact that, you know, a lot of people in George H.W. Bush's administration struggled with this issue of Israel. And I think you're seeing that come up now with James Baker and the problems that Jeb Bush is having because Baker gave a speech that was seen as being antithetical to exactly what we're talking about.
Who said?
I'm sorry?
Who says he's anti-Israel?
James Baker's speech at J Street drew a lot of criticism, and he is
from
tied.
Whom?
He is one of
from the right.
From the right.
Yeah. So because J Street's a Jewish organization, it's ridiculous.
I mean, it's a Jewish organization with a liberal, maybe peace now perspective. But back in the first Bush administration, they were tougher on Israel. You know, Scowcroft, Bush himself, and Baker, and that caused a whole bunch of problems for Republicans who were trying to get through this. And now the Republican Party is totally on the side of the most hawkish elements in Israel and defining this in the most extreme way possible.
It ain't complicated. I watched this since I grew up. The Democratic Party was very tied into Israel politics when it was Labor Party politics. It was Ben-Gurion and people like that, and Golda Meir. Of course, they were soul brothers politically. These guys belong with the right wing anywhere in the world.
But see, to me, I don't think it's really about Israel so much as it is the two personalities, President Obama and Bibi Netanyahu. I think if this was another leader, we wouldn't have this. And so people have expanded it out to a bigger thing, but it's really between those two guys and the inability for them
it's a club. They see Bibi Netanyahu as a club to use against Barack Obama.
They do. And the Republicans are, I don't even know what they're playing for. They're playing for the evangelical vote. Anyway, Speaker, who?
And war.
Oh, yeah, well, they're the Hawk Party. Speaker Boehner also joined the Hawks in his party, who have questioned the wisdom of signing any deal at all with Iran. Watch this kind of know-nothingism coming from this guy. I don't think Boehner believes a word he says anymore. Let's watch.
We've got a regime that's never quite kept their word about anything. I just don't understand why we would sign an agreement with a group of people who, in my opinion, have no intention of keeping their word.
Orange man, Saturday Night Live. Meanwhile, the Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell made a surprise trip to Israel this weekend where he appeared beside Netanyahu in a video and backed the Israeli leader's skepticism of deal. Here's the prime minister and the majority leader.
Will this increase or decrease Iran's aggression? Will the fact that Iran will have now, while it's still having sanctions, doesn't yet have an easy path to the bomb, it is conquering the Middle East in ways that are unprecedented. Will this make their move forward more moderate, or will it make it more extreme? I think it's a no-brainer.
The group who are here share your concerns about this potential agreement. And there are options that the United States has. The option, if there's an agreement, is a bill that we intend to vote on that enjoys bipartisan support to require that agreement to come to Congress for approval. If there's no deal, then the view of this group, similar to your own, is that ratcheting up sanctions might be the best direction to take in the wake of a deal that does not come together.
You know, I think the Republicans have boxed the president into a deal, into a situation that may not be bad for all of us. The only way he can prove he was really honest in negotiating with the Iranians is to not agree to them.
Right.
The only way he can agree that he was doing a forthright effort to try to protect Israel from being attacked is to not make the deal. Because if he makes the deal, they'll all be jumping on him saying he's sold out.
Well, they've already said that they can't accept any deal. I mean,
any deal.
Netanyahu basically said that in his speech. They've rallied behind him. And it's as if Netanyahu ran for the GOP presidential nomination in 2016, I think he'd win at this stage. They are just so tied to him, it doesn't matter what the policy is.
I have so many thoughts I dare not share. Anyway, the roundtable's staying up with us. We'll be right back with a lot more fun than this topic. Those 13 words a group says you can no longer say about Hillary Clinton. We're going to go after each one of those 13 words and see if they're deadly or sexist or whatever. This is Hardball, and it's going to be fun. The place for politics.